Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome back. It's Friday afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern, which means it's time for another Kick-Ass Career Conversation with Kim.
Absolutely. And me, Louise.
Louise, and Nadine.
And Nadine.
Nadine is with us. Yay.
Hi.
We're going to learn a little bit more about Nadine in just a little bit, but we're going to start off this week, like we always start off. Louise, what are we celebrating? Nadine, what are we celebrating?
I'm celebrating. So we were all kind of backstage before we go live, and Kim plays that funky music, and we're like all our heads were bopping. And I thought about that scene in Wayne's World where they're driving and they're all like, right? And I'm like, oh, hey, that's going to be me pretty soon. I'm celebrating a road trip that's coming up. Starts later today. I'm so excited to hit the road for 10 days on a road trip exploring part of Canada and the US. And I'm really, really excited. And I'm celebrating that like I've designed a career that allows me to do that, right? I didn't have to check in with anyone to say, hey, can I have this time off? I didn't have to bank my PTO. I got to plan my trip and make my work fit around that. And instead of making my life fit around work. And so it's one of the things Kim and we talk about so often. And it's not just right as an entrepreneur, but it's about leaning into and finding a place where work fits into your life and not where you are all like giving it all for work. I'm celebrating a road trip.
Yay! And you're going to a really cool place. So
hitting the Black Hills. I've never been there in the US in South Dakota. So should be a lot of fun. I'm looking hiking. And that's been one of my goals through my knee rehab and my knee surgery, as to knowing that this was on the calendar and giving me that motivation to really kind of stretch myself a little bit and get to a place where I actually do get to enjoy the hiking.
Yay. I'm celebrating with you on that one. That's awesome.
So come along, everyone. We're hitting the road.
Like a sitcom start there. Need a little bit of music.
Absolutely. Nadine, how about you? What are you celebrating this fine Friday?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me on. And I mean, we've been talking backstage for so long already. We have this big, I have a big smile on my face because I just love it. And I have another song that just played in. It's like, hit the road, Jack.
Yeah.
And so it is like, oh my gosh, it just keeps rolling. And what a wonderful motivation and goal to work towards through your recovery, to know that this is coming up and that you get to design that. And just, I'm like, I'm feeling it for you. It's like really exciting. I'm celebrating this week me not like letting go a bit of perfectionism and following a goal that I've been having in the back of my mind for a long time. And it's like, okay, just do it. You don't have to have it perfect. Just put it out in the world and see if anyone's interested. So I rolled out a new, what I call a social lounge for mothers to hang out, a virtual social lounge, because we all need to have our communities and places to support each other. And I've rolled out something like a book club, but for podcasts. It's called Mama's Podcast Club. And so we're going to meet for the first time at the end of the month, virtually, and it's for mothers who want to follow their dreams and don't, even if it's freaking them out and they're a bit afraid or don't know how to get there yet, but I want to hang out with other moms who are ambitious and who want to follow their dreams and want to take a bit of action. And I just put it out, hey, is anyone interested in this? And the feedback has been amazing. It's like, oh, I've never heard of something like this, and yeah, let's get it done. And out of nowhere, someone reached out in my network and said, oh, I love this so much. I shared it with my newsletter community. So another mom who's also an entrepreneur. And I was like, oh my God, this is working. And I just put it out. There's not really that much setup around it because, like, oh, what if no one comes around? Don't want to put too much work into it. So that's where the perfectionism, I had to just like let go a bit. And I'm co-creating a mom community. So I'm just like really, really happy that someone or a few people said, yeah, I want to experience that with you for the first time, see how it goes. Thank you.
I'm celebrating with you too, because that it is huge when we whether whatever the circumstances are, when we start to put ourselves out in the world differently, it's scary. Yeah, I just got off a call with my own group, and it's this same thing. They're all like, oh, going into this next part of self is really scary. And it's like, yeah, it is, because we have all this learned knowledge, all this conditioning from our past of like who we believe we are. And that perfectionism, right? It's like so many of us, we want to make sure we get it right. And just allowing ourselves space to do, to be, to experiment, to play. That's been my theme this week, is play. Yeah.
I love that because it allows for mistakes. That block tower might just topple over if it's not. And there's a implied sense of fun involved, and I'm all up for that.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And we don't do it enough as adults. And Louise and I have talked about this before, right? This need to play, this need to have fun. And it can look different for everybody. Absolutely. We get to choose what that looks like for ourselves. And when we know that we're feeling that something feels fun to us, right? Inviting more of that in. So, so for me this week, I think I'm celebrating a 2-hour nap this morning.
Woo, woo, woo.
So I am generally not a napper, and it's not on principle or anything like that. I'm a big proponent of naps. I just don't ever feel the need to. It's my manifesting generator nature. I'm like a go, go, go kind of person. And just that's who I am. And it comes naturally to me. This morning, I got up wicked early and then did all my morning stuff and just said, I choose not to. I choose not to continue moving forward. And I laid down, and I expected to be down for like maybe 30 minutes. Cause if I lay down, usually that's about it. And 2 hours later, I woke up and I was like, ooh, look at that. Apparently I needed a little bit of more rest than I thought. And then the coolest thing happened is our cat, who never chooses me to lay on top of, curls up on top of me and made herself just all warm and cozy and purry. And it was like a gift. It was complete manna from heaven for me. So I stayed there for another hour. I was in bed for 3 hours this morning. And you know what? I've had a super productive day. I've gotten done the things that I wanted to get done. And I was able to take care of myself in a way that felt really, really good. Like I have no guilt or anything over that.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing how when we can like top up our own buckets and we just show up so much differently for those other roles in our lives. And we often forget that, right? We often think, oh, I have to show up, but you're not really showing up. You're not showing up as your best self, right? You might be present in the room, but you certainly aren't there.
True.
But when you can take care of yourself, you do, all of a sudden now you've got the energy and the spunk and the creativity and the ingenuity and all of that all of a sudden just bubbles right to the surface, and you still get all of those things done that you wanted to get done. It's not about the time that we spend, right, at work. It's about like, what is that quality of work we're really leaning into? Yeah. I love that.
It's so interesting. I saw a post on Facebook in a nonprofit group that I'm in, and somebody, it was an anonymous post, it doesn't matter anyway, but they had posted that they were upset that somebody had taken a job at their organization, and 3 weeks later was like, hey, I'm sorry, I actually, as I was interviewing another role, I just got that offer, and it's really a better opportunity for me. So I'm really sorry, but I'm going to take this role. And this person was very upset about it. And in it, it was saying, how rude it is, and right, this old school thinking that we need to always say, well, I took this job first, so I can't watch out for myself. I can't take the time off because I need the time off. I can't put boundaries around what I need because it's right. And it was really interesting because I was like, ooh, do I want to go into the comments and see what people are saying? Am I ready to hear all these people say, yeah, you're right, it's so rude, like this was horrible? I was so happy to see it was filled with all of these people saying,
Of course.
like,
Yeah.
of course it's okay that they did that. It's absolutely okay that we take care of ourselves, that we find ways that honor ourselves. That's what this whole thing has been about over the last several years around work. And it just gave me so much hope that people really are starting to think about, what do they need, right? If I worked for somebody else and I was feeling how I did this morning, I absolutely would have taken, at least half a day. I would have said, right, I know I have a meeting at noon. I'll be in before that meeting, but I need this time for me.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. I've also read something online recently, a quote, and I do not know right now who it is by. And it was basically a reframe on the way of thinking that, did I work enough to rest, to deserve a rest? And reframing it to, did I rest enough to do my most loving, most impactful work? I was like, whoa, yes, this is where we need to go, right? It's like, rest is productive. Start with the rest and set yourself up to be successful and impactful at work and give it your best. So that stayed with me for sure.
I love that. I love that so much. Yeah. And take the road trip when you need to take the road trip, right? Start the group when you're ready to start the group. It's just, or even when you're not ready, just start the group.
There's so much to learn from that as well. You might have it perfect, and then after all the work that you've put in, find out, oh, there's actually just tank to that idea. So we're just co-creating and learning, and as we go along. Yeah.
Well, taking that time to reflect on what tanked about it, right? What can I learn about it so that next time it's a little bit different? Yeah. And even if it didn't tank, what did I learn about it?
Oh, for sure.
Right? We don't, and that's why I love when we start with celebrations, because we're not reflecting on what went wrong this week. We're reflecting on what went right. We're reflecting on what felt good, what felt fun, what felt playful. Right? Because we need those times to reflect on those things too. So, all right, Nadine, I think it's time that we let the world know who you are. What do you think? You ready? So,
do I have a choice?
Nope. Yes, you have a choice.
Just kidding.
Listen, or put your earphones out. All right. As a recovering, stressed out mama who is constantly trying to balance society's expectations to be a perfect mom and an ambitious career woman, Nadine now walks alongside moms who want to ditch the daily grind and bring more joy into their lives, both at home and at work. The pressure that moms feel is relentless, unique to moms, and is definitely unsustainable, draining moms of joy. Nadine is here to show you a more balanced and joy-filled way. She helps busy moms I read that wrong. I'm going to go to the next sentence because I'm confused now. Together, they'll focus on what works for them specifically for long-lasting, sustainable changes that make for a joy-filled life and fulfilled career. Nadine has lived and worked in 6 different countries and knows how to start from scratch, build a community, and leverage her strengths that led her to a fulfilling career now. From the hospitality sector in Germany and Scotland to sailing around a Spanish island, being a hiring manager and team leader for a global tech company in Ireland, to supporting mothers while living her life with her hubby and kiddo in Vancouver, Canada. There are stories, insights, and learnings during each step of her journey. When she's not having fun playing with or running after her little one, you might find her taking a moment for herself with a novel. Nadine! You survived. I read the whole thing.
Oh my gosh, thank you for reading that out.
Welcome.
That sounds like I got this image of like that cartoon, like a little cartoon boat that like put all around the world. I can just see you, right, sailing or flying from like continent to continent, doing all those things. I imagine your career journey is much the same, here, there, and everywhere. That it's probably not a traditional ladder climbing career that you had, Nadine.
No, not
Tell,
at all.
tell us more. Tell us more about that career path, that career journey.
Oh, I think when I started out and I was still at school, I've always dreamt to be a teacher. And I think in some ways that still kind of shines through now where I landed as a coach, and it is truly a dream career. Just what you both talked about earlier too, and how you appreciate your life that you created around it. And in some ways, I had to learn this the hard ways, like where that I landed here in jobs that I sometimes like more than others. Yeah, so I'm German. I grew up what used to be East Germany, so there wasn't a lot of like traveling around. I was from a small village, and once after the reunification, it's like waters were open, and there's like so many possibilities. Like actually, what I didn't put in my bio was right out of school, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go abroad. I was kind of the first person out of our like village to just even like stay abroad and live there. And so I started babysitting as an au pair in England. And yeah, there were always like those voices like, oh, you're just going to come back, you're not going to make it. And it's like, oh, the I'm going to show you attitude was like really got me through the year right out of school to live abroad in a country that I didn't know or like speak the language of that much. And so that was a driver and really set me up for all the other things that I ended up doing. I thought, okay, I need to go back to Germany and get some sort of education after that, and really was in the hospitality sector and got the what you call it, like the travel bug. I was like, there were always like tourists around, people from all over the place, and I was like, oh, I just so long to like go with everyone, and the curiosity that even now as a coach I have, because I'm so interested in how other people take what makes them work, and that even shone through there. And so yeah, right after I got my education in, it's like, okay, where next? Where can I use this? And Scotland there was. With I thought I was going to be set up with living a year in England and my English language lessons. I was quite shocked by the Scottish accent and being front of office and helping tourists and other places. And it's like, oh wow, that was another challenge. But I really loved it. I was in Edinburgh for a year. It's still one of my favorite places ever, with everywhere where I traveled. So wonderful. And I then decided to go from like Scotland to the Canary Islands in Spain. They're just off the Sahara Desert. There's like close to the equator, so it's like total shock. The island that I was on had like volcano like surroundings. It was like total shock, from lush green to the volcano green, like gray, and landscapes and palm trees everywhere. And yeah, I was told I had a dead man's job, and it's like, oh, that sounds scary. It's like, no. It's like, you only get this type of job if someone like drops dead from here. It's like, it was so it was like so in demand. It's like, you've got one of the best jobs on the island. And I figured out that that's what it was. So I was working for a sailing boat company, and we took out like tourists on these excursions around the island. I was sales coordinator. I was the entertainer on board, basically being seasick, motion sick for 2 years while I was there, but I loved it. It was one of the best jobs. It's like from people from all over the world. And yeah, I was like, my uniform was flip-flops, t-shirt, branded t-shirt. Our office was a table by the pool in a hotel. And it was magical. It was magical. But my upbringing also was like, oh, this is not sustainable. This is a dream for now and an experience, but it's not really gonna bring in the money. So or long-term setting me up for my goals. So I started asking tourists. It's like, oh, where's a good place to live for about half a year. And I decided for what I wanted to do, I needed to go to Galway in Ireland on the Atlantic coast. And that's where I was for 10 years. And starting another career, I got into a tech company, a global tech company based out of Germany. And I was from tech support and really, really quickly worked myself up to be promoted within the team as their manager. And as one of my, just another dream job, I got to support people, coach them, mentor them. The teaching aspect came through, empowering other women. I ran a business women's network internally. That was kind of a, what you call it? It was nearly, I want to say extinct. That's the word my son just learned. It's like, is it extinct yet? It's like, no, don't worry. It's like kind of like a dormant chapter of an internal business women's network, and I led it to be award winning within like 2 years within the company, and just empowering other women within the company, and that's where I got really into coaching. It's like my first coaching experience to coach my team members, but also to have my own first coach. And within all this time, I got to meet my now husband. We were in a two-year long distance relationship between Ireland and Canada. And for half the time we were already married, but still on opposite sides of the world. And I decided, okay, it's scary, but just like one of those things, I followed my heart. Followed my heart is like, I'm going to make it work. And I came back over here to Canada, leaving my community of 10 years and my experience and everything there, and decided, okay, I'm going to make this work in Canada. And that's how I eventually got into like coaching, did my time out, and it's like, okay, what do I actually really want? What is scary, but what can I actually do? And I followed that path, and here I am, just like you, living the dream as a coach, making my own like path in the world, helping others. And really over the last few years, it crystallized out that I need to support moms. Moms need so much, so much help. There's so much at stake for themselves, for their families, for their communities. And yeah, through everything that I've learned, I was like, there's moms out there who want to make stuff happen. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, okay, I'm here for it. I'm gonna help you, even if it's freaking you out too.
Yeah.
Let's get out there. I'll start building communities, support you. And that's what I'm here for. Thank you for letting me talk for so long. That was a long chat.
Well, listening to your story, it's and this topic that we're talking about today, right? Divine timing. Well, I heard a lot of, so I asked, right? I was getting input. I had this opportunity. I followed this. I finally made the decision. Right? Divine timing absolutely had a play in this, right? Because that's a lot of, it's not just small pivots, and small pivots, divine timing has a play in as well. But this is, I feel like just looking at your timeline, we can actually see where divine timing has made its mark on your life. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Does that resonate with you?
It does. Yeah. There's always, like, I was definitely ready as well. Like it's been like, I could feel it coming every time.
Talk about that feeling. Talk about that feeling.
It was a bit of like that restlessness. It's like, oh, there has to be more. And I recognize that. It's like, there has to be more here to that. I want different. I don't quite know yet what that is. And then following that, it's like, oh, leaving myself open to possibilities and exploring just that, even, oh, there is potentially more here, or there's something different. What could that be? And then start really engaging with that, asking questions, like doing maybe a bit of research, like what has worked previously or what works now, what do I want now going forward, how can I make that happen, and then making plans around it. I had it's like, obviously with my own kid being around, it's like, I don't ever want you to leave this household. It's like, I want you here and snuggle you, and it's like whatever. And anyway, it led me to talk with my mom about me leaving for England right out of school without like going to university first or doing anything. And there wasn't really a precedent anywhere around us. And she said, Nadine, you always had a plan. You came with us to your plans. Like, what were we supposed to do? You always, like, there was, every time you moved to a country, it's like, sometimes I hadn't even been to, like, I've never been to Ireland. And I packed up my bags on that Spanish island, with like 2 bags and I just went. And it's like, I'm going to make it happen. I have a place to live for a few days, and then I'm just going to we'll have to figure it out. And I make it happen. So there's always this inner belief that I'm going to make it happen somehow. I'm going to be resourceful enough to figure this out, and maybe even take a job that I might not like right away, but I'll pay my bills. I'm going to make it happen. So that inner belief was always there. And I would call myself someone who does not like to take risks. But looking back, I was like, there were quite a few risks. I don't know if I would do it now again, but I always, like, the reflection was that there's always a plan or something where it's like mitigated risks, and the curiosity. I think the curiosity is always there. It's like the learning, the asking questions, like what it's like living there or doing that job. So that's probably the driver always around I've seen it coming, because I could feel it inside. There's this restlessness, the drive for more, the what if, what would that look like? And I always want to say I just follow that, but it probably plays down the effort that went into it, because coaching my clients now, I know it can be quite scary. It's like listening to yourself. What do you actually want? Then voicing that or writing that down, and never mind even putting that into action, are completely different things. And it takes some guts if you haven't flexed that muscle of, like, changing. So, yeah.
I love it's that we have to pay attention to that feeling, right? Like, I've talked about it before in the sense of like that prickly old sweater that you got on, like all of a sudden, like things start to feel uncomfortable and you're like, what's going on? Right. You talked about restlessness, or sometimes it's just these like little bubbles, or it's the butterflies in your stomach when all of a sudden, like, that drive to work isn't feeling like it used to. It's like these little small feelings inside us that I really think is kind of like, it's that poke, right? Like, that's kind of the timing, I think, anyways, that we're talking about is that it's the start of something. And it's up to us to really grab hold of it and to let it flourish, and to really be curious, to say, like, what would it be like if I blew this up, or if I allowed it to bloom? What could it look like?
Yeah.
But I think it starts with those paying attention to, like, whatever that is. You're uncomfortable, you're not quite right, like things, right, just aren't smooth. We often just kind of brush it away to say, like, I don't have the time to look at that, or like, let's just ignore it and like just keep plowing through, like Kim could have done to this morning, right? And just then now we start showing up in a much different way. But if we could tap into that a little bit sooner, I think we would be much better off getting it up and out and seeing it, discovering it, what it could be.
that self-awareness, to tune into your body, because sometimes everything that's going on in our head can be super, super loud. Not just what's going on in our head, but outside world as well, right? Everyone's kind of wants something or needs something. It's loud externally, but then sometimes what's going on in the head can be pretty detrimental. It's like, no, you can't do that, or I shouldn't be doing this, or da di da di da, all those kind of negative thought patterns, and so to kind of just tune all that out and tune into your body. It's like, what does your body tell you? It's like what you just said. It's like that uncomfortableness feeling, or it's like something's quite going on. It takes attention and mindfulness to, go down that path and explore. Because, what if I find out that what if I find out something that I don't like? What then? Then I would have to take action on it. Oh, also uncomfortable, depending on what you're thinking. So yeah.
You use the word mindfulness, and we talk about the divine timing, and right, these can be scary terms for people. They're like, that's a little woo. I feel really skeptical. I'm very cynical of all of this stuff that you're talking about, right? I know what I need to do. I need to just change my mind and move forward. Just change my mind and move forward. Just make a decision and move forward, right? There's that. And I want to kind of put out there that when we use these terms like divine timing and mindfulness and energy and even just that idea of being in touch with what our body is telling us, right? Not just what our emotions are, but what our body is telling us. We're not suggesting that you can be all woo. You can be in this place of like all this woo and airy fairiness, and suddenly life shows up with sparkles and unicorns and fairies. These are all tools, right? Mindfulness is a tool. Somatic processing, that's our bodies. That's being aware of what's happening in our bodies, right? This idea of understanding, not that everything happens in its own time with divine timing, but understanding that patience, right? To me, divine timing really speaks into this idea of patience and awareness and a little bit of resiliency, right? These more meaty or masculine words, masculine energy words. So if I just wanted to just kind of slip in here, because I do feel like there can be a lot of resistance when we start talking about these things, where people are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I talk airy fairy all the time. And the reality is it's both and, right? It's airy fairy and it's very grounded. And absolutely. So we are talking about this concept of divine timing today. And I just didn't want us to go into too far of a direction that we felt like, or maybe we do want to go in that direction, where we feel like people can't really grasp onto it. Because I know that can be a scary concept.
Well, and I think too, like there are some people out there like that we can look at other people and go like, wow, weren't they lucky? Or like, oh, like, man, the cards were stacked in their favor. Like, holy smokes, they were just able to like get what they needed. Or like we see this kind of imaginary like pot of gold that some people apparently have access to and others don't. Right. Like, and I think what we're talking about is that like, it starts with something inside us that spurs us into action when we can connect with whatever that thing is, call it whatever you want. But when we can connect to that, like we're actually the ones that bring more of that into our lives, whatever it is that we want. But we have to be aware and we have to be clear about what that is. Like, I think that term divine timing, like just means like all of a sudden, like there's magical fairy poop right in your path, right? And you're like, oh yeah, look at that. That's not what I see when I think about kind of this timing. It's about tapping into something that we all have, that we've been conditioned not to listen to. Call it your intuition. I don't know, call it whatever you want. But it really is something that's inside us that spurs us into this place of like, let's explore something different, or let's do something different. But there's an action to it. It doesn't just happen.
Right. Well, I mean, now we can go airy fairy again and talk about energy, right? We are aware of something. We want something to happen in this world. So we put our attention on that thing. We are more likely to take the micro steps or even the large steps of moving to a different continent to make that next thing happen. And therefore, we're manifesting, we're creating, we're bringing closer to ourselves. And be it the universe, be it, energy, be it whatever you want to call it, this idea of divine timing coming to that place of, I now get to recognize that this thing feels divine to me, right? This aha moment is divine. It comes with it some weight, some glory, right? And that's where I think that opportunity to recognize we all have those. And yet so many people walk around with blinders on and they're like, divine timing is poo-poo. It's just woo-woo crap, like whatever. It's like, but it's not. You have that we all have that opportunity to have that glory moment, to have that divine timing moment of recognizing, holy crap, what I wanted is right here. I thought it was going to show up at a different time and in a different way, but holy crap, it's right here.
I would love to share a story around that, because I had the actual holy shit moment while I was washing my hair in the shower. By the way, having showers is a great way to generate ideas.
Yes.
Because it happened a few other times, but not so much as holy crap, no, yes, all at the same time. So it's another career move. But so when I came to Canada, I was waiting for my work permit to come through. So I had months to kind of fill, and like I was very intentional about the companies here, work opportunities, connecting with people, really putting in, like, growing my roots in this space. And I had a lot of coaches in my world. I think naturally drawn to me, or me to them, or anyways, I started collaborating with one of them, and I was like, I don't quite know, should I go back into like the corporate world or do my own thing? But like, what would that even be, my own thing? And she's like, well, what if you like just concentrate on one, see what comes up, sit with it for like a week, see what comes up, maybe explore what that would look like. Like 3 days later, washing my hair is like full of shampoo everywhere, and I had this moment because I thought I started. So that was my first company here in Vancouver was born that way, in the shower. I was like, hey, I have all these coaches in my world who need clients, and I love coaching. And then on the other hand, I had all these people in my world who wanted more in their lives, didn't quite know how to get there. I was like, hey, why don't I just help those two parties come together? It's like community building and everything. So I started a coaching community. And it was born that way, in the shower. I was like, but it sounds so scary. It's like I'd never run my own company before or did anything like that. But at the same time, like, even just really quickly mentally, it ticked off all the things that I was passionate about, all my strength. And I knew there's no way I could ignore this. Even it's so scary to start my own thing in a country I had just been allowed to work in. And I was like, there's no way I cannot follow that and see what might come up from that. So for about like 3 years, until I started my own, like shifted my focus a bit, I had my own coaching community here in Vancouver. It's like I ran podcasts and events in person, online, all those types of things. But this divine moment of holy crap was in the shower. And it's like, I have to follow this. There was no way. Like, I knew enough about myself that, like, what my strengths were, what I wanted in a company, like what my values are and how I can contribute to things. And it's like it literally ticked off all the boxes. And it's like, this is something I have to follow. This is just okay. If I don't, then I'll always regret it. And I started looking into it, and that was November, and January I rolled everything out. It's like, this is what I'm doing. Who wants to be involved?
Yeah. Because you were open to receiving,
Yes.
right? And that goes back to, goes back to that place that you were talking about of understanding that restlessness. The Louise you were talking about, right? Whatever that feeling is that shows up for you, that whatever it is, you got the message and you were like, oh, I need to pay attention to this.
Yes. There was
right?
the curiosity that came through, the openness to let's see what happens when I like manifest and bring it out into the world, or just explore, go down that route. I was like, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I was just like there, and there was space, and it's like, come to me, I want an answer.
Yeah.
Well, I got it.
Yeah. And well, and I just think about the people that we each work with, right? That show up who are not in tune and in touch with they're like, yeah, I kind of feel something. And so I'm curious with each of us, how do we help people start to tap into that a little bit more, like to start to be able to listen to what they're feeling inside? Do we each have like one or two little tips we could give?
Louise, I'm volunteering you.
Wow, I have some. Okay, so
Go for it.
Go ahead, Louise.
Well, so Kim, you are the somatic coach in the group by far. But what often happens with my clients is that that they're so busy, right? Filling every single moment with something or someone that we just don't have the time to tap into whatever that feels like, right? Because we don't even know what we're trying to feel or look for or imagine, right? It could feel like an upset stomach, or it could feel like I had to change clothes 18 times today before I could step out the door. Like it all depends. But when we're so busy filling our time with this busyness and this hustle and just trying to balance all of the plates, that the thing I think that we need to do is find that time to just pause. Taking a moment, and it just has to be a moment to say like literally, when was the last time you sat and did nothing? Right. And taking that time for ourselves, starting to reclaim some of that back, so that it doesn't become like this checkbox life. I think sometimes we think we're doing things for ourselves, like I'm exercising or I'm walking, but I'm really not. I haven't had the capacity to just create space for myself or my thoughts, or reconnect my body with my heart and my gut, or my head with my heart and my gut, the rest of my body, and to just take the time and pausing to do that, I think is that little tiny gap. We talk about micro steps often, and that's usually kind of that first place I like to kind of pick at, is to say, where can we get a little bit of space, so that you can start to tune into what's going on in your body.
Yeah. I mean, that was just going to be my tip, is stillness. So there's a reason why we get the downloads in the showers, right? There's two reasons. One is we are literally massaging our crown chakra. And there, I went total airy fairy woo on you. But you are literally massaging your crown chakra right there, like washing your head. And even if you don't believe in chakras, you're massaging the top of your head, which is the place that allows for you to think, right? You're doing that. You're creating energy. You're creating heat. You're creating motion. So it's easy. And even if you're not massaging your head and you're just standing there, you still have the water, and the water is creating flow. The water is flowing through your energy. So that's the energetic side of stuff, right? The other side of it is we're relatively still when we're in the shower. Now, some of us like to sing and dance and do whatever we're going to do in the shower, but we're still relatively still. And it's in those moments of stillness that we can have that glory moment. We can notice the divine timing. We can become open to what our body is feeling and what we want to allow in. So that's my tip, is stillness. Whatever stillness can look like for you is just a moment of stillness. Put your hand on your heart, put your hand on your stomach, and just take a moment, take a breath. Right?
It can be quite challenging for some clients, I find, specifically against like, oh, what am I going to find when, you're just sitting there for a minute and don't do anything, nothing, whatever that is. So like taking them through it, even like in a coaching session, and creating that space right there with them while you're alongside them. So it's like not so scary, or whatever does come up, you can coach your way through it. Then afterwards, that's a good way of doing it. It's like if there's like, oh, I don't know what's going on today, or you can help them. It's like tune into your body. It's like go through things and what's coming up. So later on, obviously, when they're by themselves, they kind of can self-coach through that. And it doesn't always work for everyone, but those inquiry questions, like at the end of a coaching session, just something, hey, let this question percolate a bit more when, until we meet again. It's like, I want you to pay notice to your body, or what does that feel like when we start like having that a bit more of a quieter moment when you're journaling. Again, that doesn't always resonate with everyone. It's like writing stuff down, but 1 or 2 questions, like again, around your body, or what made you so upset today? And it's like, how did that feel? And then notice, like learn from that as well, right? So next time around, like what you said earlier, Louise, about that jumper or that pullover that felt a bit like, like recognize that. And so you can take action earlier on that, and don't let it kind of come to an escalation or kind of a desperate type of state. But learn from it. Oh, this is happening in my body. Okay, it must be, maybe this is coming up again for me then. Oh, I can take earlier action so it doesn't go to that higher state somehow.
Those places of reflection. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nadine. So it is time for us to think about, what are our golden nuggets? What are our takeaways? What are those things that we're going to put in our pockets and take with us from this conversation? And if you're listening live, you're welcome to share yours also in the comments. We would love to know what those are.
I think for me, it's this whole conversation, our topic, everything we've talked about today, listening to Nadine's story about your career journey and how you you landed on the shores of Canada. I think it all is about curiosity, right? And it's about just being able to be really curious with ourselves. And that's like, we don't talk enough about curiosity or lend enough superpower strength to it. Because when we can start to ask those what questions, right? What else? What if? Those kinds of things, and foster that sense of curiosity, like, who knows where it could lead to. And that's kind of what this whole conversation just kind of reinforced, that, yeah, curiosity is actually a superpower and a muscle that I could definitely use some conditioning, some strength around.
Are you going on a road trip? You got to be very curious.
I know.
About all the things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'd love to build up on what you just said, Louise, about the curiosity part. And it's to let yourself dream. It's like, what if, follow those sparkles when you have them, and give yourself permission to just like, what if what you discover is actually divine? What if it's just the most wonderful thing that could have happened? Don't, go automatically into, the doom and gloom. But hey, what if you start looking for the positive things? And kind of combine that curiosity with, there could be something really great down this road, and then follow that. It's like start believing in yourself and that you could actually do that. This is in your realm. So like taking that a bit further, I was like, oh, and I'm just like, oh, I'm getting really giddy about this too. Kim, what's your takeaway, your nugget?
Yeah, I think, and it's continuing to build on it. It's the what's possible, right? And that comes from asking or being asked the questions that create the cracks that let the light in, right? And that to me is that really great place where we get to start to play. It comes back to that play for me is once we have a little bit of light shining in, we get to play and we get to acknowledge that other things are possible. And we may not have all the answers, but we get to experiment and find out what's next. So, Nadine, what do you have going on in the world and where can people find you?
Probably the best place. Well, if you're looking at this live on LinkedIn somewhere on the social channels, I was like, follow me there on Instagram or LinkedIn. And otherwise, the best place, the most central place, probably my website, nadineStille.com. Thank you for having that on screen. There's a whole folder with free resources like meditations to kind of create that stillness that we just talked about, that space, and other golden nuggets. And yeah, so just come along, say hi. Thank you.
Yeah. We are so glad that you dropped in today and that we've been able to have this conversation. It has been divine timing, finding each other and being together in this environment. Louise, I am springing it on you. Do you know what's coming next week?
I do. It's Celine, navigating transitions. It's going to be a great conversation. So tune in. Hopefully, I will be on the road when we record this next week.
Well, not hopefully you'll be on the road. You will be on the road.
No, but I'm hoping that I get in. It might just be Kim. I don't know. We're just trying to figure it all out and what that could look like as I connect from South Dakota.
So we're hoping that we see Louise next week, but if we don't, join us back here. Celine will be here. She is an amazing HR professional, and we're going to be talking about navigating transitions. So again, Nadine, thank you so much for being here with us and for being part of this conversation and for shining your light into the world. It's just big and bright.
Thank you so much for having me on. This has been wonderful. And look, we're all full of positive energy, and yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, everyone, we'll see you next week. Take care.
All right, thanks. Bye for now.